Hi cozy friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Morgan and I love to unravel my anxious mind with my cozy hobbies, mostly reading and knitting. I think there are actually a lot of you that are new here. I think like 1,000 of you have joined me in the past week, which is absolutely crazy. My last Cozy Diaries episode was actually my first formal knitting podcast style video. And it was so well received. I feel so welcomed to the knitting community. I will talk more about this later in the video when we are gauge swatching together, but I just want to thank you so very much for being here and for following along my knitting journey. But this video is actually a really exciting announcement. I am going to be hosting my very first knit along with Haley from Haley's Space. We are going to be knitting the Salty Days sweater by Kutovakika, and the knit along is going to be running from September 1st, which is in about 2 weeks, through to November 30th. I would absolutely love it if you join us and knit along with us. I have been wanting to knit the Salty Days sweater for so very long, as I said in my Yarn Stash tour video, and many of you actually voiced the same thing and that you would be interested in a knit along. So Haley and I got really excited and just started planning like how soon can we start. So hopefully you can join this knit along and make some knitting friends along with us and knit a beautiful cabled sweater along the way. If you are participating and use Instagram, I would love to see you share your cast on or your gauge swatch, your whip along the way, and your finished object of the Salty Days sweater on the hashtag SaltyDaysKal. And don't forget to add Kika's hashtag, which is hashtag SaltyDaysSweater. We have actually started a group chat on Instagram, so if you would like to be a part of that, make sure you add a seashell emoji in your comment along with your Instagram username so that I can add you to the group chat. We also plan to do optional Zoom knitting parties if you so choose to participate, so that we can all make knitting friends all around the world and actually get to knit on our Salty Days together. Lastly, to participate in the knit along, make sure you are following and subscribe to both Haley and I so that you can see all of our updates and any events announcements that we have. If you are not already subscribed to Haley's Space, you should be. She is a knitting podcaster and vlogger who shares her knitting journey and makes such beautiful things. She has the coziest vibes, and I have gotten the pleasure of meeting her in real life a couple times, and she is honestly such a gem. So if you enjoy the vibes of my videos, you will absolutely love hers as well. If you don't already have the Salty Days sweater on your knitting queue, I'm shocked, but also let's talk about the pattern details so you can decide whether or not you want to join. The pattern is Salty Days sweater by Kutovakika. It is a beautiful cable work sweater. It is charted knitting that has sections of lace, sections of ribbing, and it's a very beautiful breezy sweater project. So whether or not you live in the southern or northern hemisphere, it's a really nice sweater weather or spring project because you get a sweater that's also quite breezy that you can layer very easily. And since I am currently living in the southern hemisphere, I will be knitting it through spring, and hopefully when we do get to visit the coast of Australia, I can wear it on the coast on a breezy day if I get it finished in time before it gets too hot for summer. The Salty Days sweater calls for a DK weight yarn held with a mohair or a single strand of worsted weight yarn, which is what I'm going to be doing. The pattern suggests double Sunday, which is a 100% merino yarn held with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. The gauge of this pattern is 17 stitches and 24 rows over 4 inches on a 5mm US needle after blocking. And it also uses 3mm needles on the hem, cuff, and neckline. The Salty Days sweater pattern is available on Kutovakika's website and on her Ravelry. Let's talk about my yarn choice. I am going to be knitting my Salty Days sweater in Knit Picks Heatherly worsted weight yarn in the color Sea Glass. It has 218 yards per 100 grams, which is 199 meters for those of you who use that metric system. It is a 80-20 acrylic merino blend. And I honestly think I've been saying that backwards because I thought it was 80% merino, and it's actually 80% acrylic and only 20% merino, but that is what it is, and I'm happy it has merino in it. It's a very soft, squishy yarn. I am very happy with it and eager to work with it. I think it'll be quite a beautiful yarn for this project, especially with it being named Sea Glass, because this sweater is very coastal vibes. This color is so far from my usual color palette, which is very like neutrals and browns and natural colors colors or rust tones. This yarn retails for $6.99 US per 100 gram hank, but I know I also got it on a pretty steep discount. And I also ordered this when I was ordering enough to get free shipping, so I really didn't pay much per hank on this yarn. I have almost 1,200 meters of this yarn, and my size calls for 1,080 meters. So I can't foresee needing to play any yarn chicken. I finally have a project where I don't have to worry about yarn quantities. But back to sizing, I am going to be knitting a size 3, which is the size medium. And that will give me a positive ease of about 22 centimeters or 8 inches if I am on gauge. And I do intend to knit on gauge for this project. I am really eager to wind this yarn up and get to gauge swatching, so let's do that now. I am going to be swatching for this sweater on my US 8 or 5mm needles, as the pattern suggests. When I do a long tail cast on, I actually showed Mickey and Haley this and it blew their mind, so I wanted to share it with you. The length of my arm is always perfectly about 50 stitches, so I give myself a tail along with that. Obviously this is just a gauge swatch, so I'm only going to be doing about half that. If you have already chosen your yarn, let me know down in the comments what yarn you're going to be knitting this sweater with. And if you haven't, let me know what you are shopping. Let me know what you're choosing between, or if you've already picked your color but not quite your yarn yet. I want to have all the yarn selection discussions. If I was not doing this for a knit along, I would definitely just be casting on for the back instead of gauge swatching, because I'm pretty confident this yarn is going to meet gauge, and the back cast on is actually not that many stitches. So it would be pretty equivalent to doing a gauge swatch, but it would also have those increases there already. I had to figure out what the pattern repeat was for the gauge swatch because I was just doing stockinette at first, but I am back. I am doing my 2x1 rib. I'm pretty new to gauge swatching. I feel like for a while I would rather knit an entire garment in the wrong size than do the preparatory work. But obviously after a project or two goes wrong, you change your tune with that. But I wanted to talk about why I really wanted to host this knit along, because I feel like participating in the book club cardigan knit along was one of the best things for my knitting journey. I definitely had a lot of imposter syndrome around creating content with my knitting, even though it has become my primary hobby and source of comfort in the past couple years of me knitting. I felt like I couldn't make knitting content as a beginner that was directed towards the knitting community because they'd be like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And no one has been like that whatsoever, actually. It's been the opposite. People have been so encouraging and also amazed at the things that I choose to take on, the projects I choose to take on as a beginner. So I really feel like I've had such a warm welcome into the community, and it has been so appreciated, and it makes me feel like I can just share what I'm doing and what I love with other people who love the same things as me. So I kind of just fell into making the knitting content because it's what I was doing, and I just never could have expected the support I have had since creating more knitting content. I think that the book club cardigan chat helped me so much with feeling like there is space for everyone of every level of beginner, intermediate, advanced in the knitting community, and we are all here to cheer each other on and see what cool things we're all making. I think that there's literally nothing more fun than knitting the same projects as someone else at the same time. I have been buddy knitting the Cumulus blouse with Haley, who is hosting this knit along with me, and Mickey from Mickey's Cozy Corner. It has been so enriching to just share our progress updates in our chat. And we actually have the fortune of being able to knit together in person, but we also have done some Zoom calls when Haley is in Melbourne and not able to be here physically. So that's why we're really eager to also try to do some Zoom knitting calls with this knit along, because I think it helps really create connections and friendships, which is so needed when you have such an isolating hobby. We are all homebodies. That's why we knit. We love to spend time in our home all alone, but it sure is nice to have a friend to share your knitting with. I think for a long time I felt like if I made knitting content, people who follow me who are following for the bookish content would feel like they don't really resonate because I'm talking about knitting now. And I definitely intend to continue talking about both, but I really love that just talking about whatever it is that I'm up to and what I'm loving has allowed my people to find me instead of me trying to change what I'm doing to fit a certain mold or fit the algorithm. I really don't want my content creation to make my knitting or my reading become a chore instead of a hobby. I really just want it to be me sharing my hobbies on here with those who love the same things. And that is exactly what it has been. And I am absolutely mind blown at how my channel has been growing, how my community has been growing, and that so many people find comfort in watching as much as I do. So if you have already subscribed, I just want to thank you so much for following along my journey and supporting my knitting and reading journey. And those of you who have left really kind comments saying you enjoy my energy and my vibes, as an anxious person, those kinds of comments actually mean the world to me because I can feel like I come across so chaotic, and it just means the world to me to know that you are finding comfort here. But I sincerely hope you will join our knit along, whether you want to be a part of the group or not. You can share your progress on Instagram with the Salty Days KAL hashtag. Even if you don't think you can take on a project like this, I promise you can. It's nothing but knits and purls and yarn overs, and you just take it one stitch at a time. When we let ourselves be intimidated by big projects and like, oh, I dream of knitting that, but I can't do that, well, we never learn and we never challenge ourselves. I think the most beautiful thing about knitting is learning new techniques and skills if that's what you like to do. If you prefer to knit on scarves back and forth, that's also valid, and there is space for you in this community as well. But if you'd like to be a little more social with it, you can join the group chat and join the Zoom calls when we do them. We will try our best to make sure they suit everyone's time zones and schedules, but obviously that's going to be difficult to do, especially since we're in Australia. And I know we are literally between 8 and 14 hours ahead of a lot of you who watch my channel. Here is how my little swatch is going of my 2x1 rib. I am absolutely loving this yarn. It is so squishy. I did just check my gauge swatch and confirm that I am getting exactly what it calls for on the pattern for pre-block. So I am going to knit a couple more rows and then I will be blocking it to make sure I still get gauge. But I am very, very confident that this yarn is going to meet gauge on these needles as suggested in the pattern. And I'm so, so excited to cast on September 1st. So once again, if you would like to participate in the knit along, let me know down in the comments. And if you want to be added to the Salty Days knit along group chat, make sure you leave your Instagram handle and your comment. If you aren't able to do this knit along, I hope you will subscribe and stay tuned for future knit alongs and also all the cozy vlogs. I am going to go ahead and wrap this vlog up even though I haven't blocked it yet because I want to get it up quickly so that everyone can buy their yarn in time for the September 1st start date. I want to thank you so very much for being here and remind you to do something that brings you comfort today. And I will be wishing you a very cozy week.